Hi, welcome. We're at ITC Asia 2026 and I have with me this morning Will Ross, CEO, co-founder Federato, who also is our presenting sponsor at ITC Asia 2026. Will, thank you so much for being with us. So Federato is accelerating its expansion into Asia Pacific, APAC to be specific, and market and joining ITC Asia for the first time. When attendees leave, what is the one thing that you want them to remember about Federato?
Sure. I think why are we here, right? So first of all, Federato is an AI native platform focused on agentic processing across the full policy lifecycle. So a lot of the core systems that we think about and how can we really fundamentally move processes forward. And to that end, where we see the most opportunity for those AI-powered core systems is anywhere where a market is growing. And that's exactly what brings us back to the APAC region time and time again. I think there's two aspects to that. The first is the markets themselves, right, for the most part are growing. There are exceptions to that rule, of course, but as we talk to innovators in the marketplace, whether those are large corporates, I was just on stage with the likes of Generali and Allianz, or smaller entities, what we're seeing is a very clear need to expand in those markets, a very clear desire to do so in an AI native way, because why would I be going after new markets with old technology? And the confluence of those two things makes it a really good opportunity for a company like us to make sure we have that international presence. And so as we've built our team out in the region, events like this have been very, very helpful to us.
Okay, brilliant. And insurers are operating in a market defined by volatility, new risk and rapid technology change. From your perspective, what will separate the organizations that perform well from those that fall behind?
It's a really interesting question. As we look at the market globally, what is actually very clear is that there's an emergence of winners and losers. There's a study by Accord that looks at the top 100 insurers globally, and what it actually says in the study is that 48% of those insurers destroy value with their core insurance operations, meaning their underwriting and claims ongoing activities. They require investment income in order to make a profit. And this more or less holds globally. Coupled with that, what we're seeing is this emergence of a bimodal distribution, right? What that means is there are these winners and these losers. There are sort of two pools of insurers that are populating around the globe. And the difference maker really does seem to be how well those organizations are making use of their data and information. Now, we've said that phrase for a long time, make use of your data and information, but inevitably that's intertwixed with AI at this moment. And there are organizations who are sort of making the fundamental changes in order to be able to serve up that information, which in AI we often call context, to these models, to these sorts of systems that can really move their business forward. And there are other organizations who are saying, no, we're afraid of too big of change relative to these technologies. And we really are seeing those who are bold in a concentrated and thoughtful way kind of be rewarded in the marketplace.
Okay, great. And a lot of insurers are increasing their AI spend, but not always seeing the results they expect. Where do you think the industry is going wrong and what needs to change for AI to deliver strong business outcomes?
Yeah, no, I think there's an interesting stat I shared on stage earlier in the conference, which is that 68% of insurers are seeing no impact to revenue from their investments in AI. But let's flip that on its head for a second. 1 minus 62, 38%. 38% of insurers are seeing an impact to revenue from AI. In this industry for a long time, technological change has been thought of as a cost center, right? I've got to have these systems. How can I save money? How can I do things more efficiently? But the reality is we're seeing a growing percentage of insurers acknowledging how this can actually affect their core business. And that's an extraordinarily interesting opportunity. So we also know that over 90% of insurers are actively investing into AI. And that's why they see that divergence. Back to this point of a bimodal distribution, where do you think that second group, those winners, are coming from? It's that group of insurers who are seeing, north of 30% of them, those meaningful increases to growth, those meaningful increases to profitability. And it really does come back to the sort of level of boldness that certain organizations are taking and who's coming up that maturity curve fastest.
Well, thank you so much, Will. That was definitely very insightful and appreciate your time. And hopefully this has been a great event for you and we look forward to welcoming you for the next edition.
Thank you very much, Sangeeta.
All right, thank you.